So I'm having a lot of fun with this part of the project. I'm making the front plate to mount all the accessories and the supercharger for the 283 small block Chevy, and I hope you enjoy it. And we're back, putting the intake manifold on. 0.025 inches down on the piston. Hydraulic roller cam. We're going to try to create a representation of this plane on the front of this block. What I've been doing is taking some bolts and using them as reference points. I can take this straight edge, this level, and rotate it around the front of the crank. And I'm just going to kind of eyeball it with these screws to start. And I think what I'm going to do is take these screws and chop the heads off and then create a point where the cut is. And then take a piece of wood, make an indent or an impression where each of these holes go. Using that as the main reference, I'll pound everything else onto it, and what I will end up with is a transfer of this entire bolt pattern in a two-dimensional plane. Then what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take that board and I'm going to go put it over on my Shapeoko. I'm going to use that to transfer those dimensions in an XY space. I can take a piece of aluminum and mill a representative plate that can act as the entire mounting structure for all the accessories. Now, that will only be in an XY space, which means that I won't have any information about, if we call this 0, this would be so many negative, maybe a negative inch, a negative inch, negative inch. And this would be a little bit more proud than that. So I'll be able to build a depth of field. All of these bolts I'm threading in here are 3/8-16. So I bought some cheap galvanized bolts. Why is the engine block upside down? Just cause. Alright, I'm going to cut 17 bolt heads off. Yikes. Maybe not. So I doled my blade on my rage saw pretty fast. So there they are, 17 pins. There we go. That's the plane of the front of the block. Originally I was thinking I was going to make this whole plane one plate. That would basically fit around the water pump, but it would just be this big plate that I could bolt everything to. This will likely be one circuit, and this will be the other, just because that's simpler to do. So this could be alternator, power steering, and then blower. Kind of like that because there's a lot of bolts over here for the blower. There's 5 in the head, and then there's the 4 on the block. Over here there's 4 on the block, there's only 3 on the head plus this manifold. But what I like about having lots of bolt holes here is I can really stabilize the blower. So having all these holes, it gives me a lot of opportunities to strengthen and align and adjust. Edelbrock intake manifold gasket for these heads. Now the next issue is the dress-up kit that I got from Speedway has these intake manifold bolts, and they're too big. Luckily, I have a whole set of stainless fasteners. I get these from eBay a lot. I have like 4 or 5 cases of these. River City Fastener and Supply on eBay. Check them out. I've bought a lot of bolts and fasteners from them. It's great stuff, and it's relatively cheap. I think this thing was like 70 bucks, and it saved me already just on being able to fasten my intake manifold on here. So I'm a fan. Thanks, River City. River City is not a sponsor. I wouldn't mind if they were. There's a technique that I'm going to use. You get these gaskets here that are supposed to seal up the intake manifold, and it's really hard to get them aligned. And so what people will do is they just use RTV, which I'm going to do. Not doing it. So, bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. So put a deep bead there. Alright, so here's the moment of truth. I have all these aligned now. And this board is just about the size of what I'd like it to be. I've got pretty much everything aligned. It's flush with the crank. And then use a mallet to imprint all these bolt locations on the board. And then use the board as the template over in the Shapeoko and digitize this map such that I now have a CNC machinable template. So instead I'm just going to draw. There we go. So if I'm really careful and I do this one at a time, that there is the bolt pattern. Check that out. So what you can see here is I've now mounted this temporarily in the Shapeoko, and what I want to be able to do is 2D map these dots. I've numbered them. I've marked the driver and passenger side. Found the number 1 position pretty well. That is the 0. So I'm going to use the crank center point as the 0, because I also use the crank snout as the 0. In the Z direction, the crank is the 0. It will also be the 0, and that's why. If I don't mess anything else up, I'll be in a good position to map this whole thing. So I'm going to open up Notepad. So crank snout equals 0. I might just have to miss number 9. Shit. That sucks. So you can see it's kind of screwed up. This guy didn't go all the way through. What's up with that? Neither did these. Whatever. It's not a bad fit. I've clearly got some things to do here. This whole thing can be moved over, obviously, on this plane, and I need a lot more material over here because realistically, there should be an arm here that would hold anything, whether it's going to be an alternator or a power steering pump. So I'm going to trace out some hypothetical patterns for where I should cut, and I'm going to run this guy through the bandsaw. Alright, so this thing looks kind of like a bone. Let's see how it works. Widen these holes in the drill press and see how this works. So this guy might as well eliminate. I mean, I'd have some really thin wall there. I'm not sure if I can use these bolt holes on the water pump at all. I widened all the holes. This shows me, yes. Yeah. So I cut the water pump off altogether pretty much. That's pretty cool, you know, it looks kind of organic. So I've already loaded the program, I've hit run, it's done the initial step up. I'm going to turn on the router and hit go, and let's see how we do. Speak, or even sound an alarm. Okay, fucking disasters. So, this is just a normal drill bit. You can see how much that heat treated that, just ramming through a 1/4 inch piece of plywood. This is kind of funny. I mean, this design is crude, but I got a lot of work to do there. I mean, this has to go way out there. Understandably, I'm a little skittish of that because I'm worried about weight and bending the plate. The good news is the bolt holes line up perfect.
Schmoopy, schmoopy. I gave you a bath yesterday and you still stink. You still smell like a doofy. You stinky dog. You stinky, stinky dog.
And that's that story.
Boopy, boopy, boopy. You must be hungry. I think you're hungry. You think I have food? Do you think I have food? Is this food? Is that yummy? Oh yeah, he's a good boy, yes it is. He's a good boy. Oh, hi. Hi.
Where do you think this one goes?
Hmm?
Totally work. So these need to be about twice as long. The circle, the radius of the pattern is actually just about right. So now the question. Should it go on the driver's or the passenger side?